Where are we right now?
This is Point View Marina in
Tough
Snug
guy.
Harbor.
Yep.
Yep. And I don't know. We've been in the slip down here. Mike's boat is right over on the other one.
What are you on, Mike?
26 center console.
Which one?
It's actually on dry dock right now. 'Cause
Oh,
it's
what
got
happened?
a lower unit. That's
We're not talking about that right now.
Yeah,
No,
way to
we
really twist the knife, bud.
What engines are you running?
I've got Yamaha 200s on it.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's not going to go in this year.
No. Oh man.
Nope.
Then we got somebody. One of the good things about being in the industry is like you can usually find somebody willing to come down and
For the most part.
troubleshoot and skip you in front of the line. So
Right.
we're gonna try to figure out a way where we can
Get
trade in,
front.
swap up, trade up, whatever.
Trade some apparel, maybe.
Yeah, the fuck. 2 million T-shirts.
Maybe get a trolling motor.
Yeah.
Give you a T-shirt for a Yamaha Powerhead,
Yeah.
which apparently can't even find nowadays.
No, that's the biggest thing is like what is having engines that might be a little older better
Right.
than in repairing them. If you have the means to like actually repair them, if you know a mechanic or you are a mechanic, it's like, is it better to just absorb that
Yeah.
effort and labor and save on what you'd spend for overpay for a new boat?
And know you're gonna have some parts to spare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And whatever keeps it running.
Yeah. I know one of our boats. We're trying to replace the Evinrudes on it, and we're 53 weeks out.
Yeah,
from
I was
seeing motors.
Yeah.
Stoner Boatworks, a guy who builds custom like Carolina flared center consoles down in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. 56 weeks out on motors. He's got boats that can't take motors.
Yeah, it's insane. It's crazy. So do you prefer? Obviously, I mean, we're on the Westmac, which is a single screw.
Single screw.
Yep.
It's got a cat in it, 1150, and we bounced around. We had Hydrosport like Mike. We had center consoles our whole life, and you get to a point where it's like you're looking at a sporty. It depends what type of fishing you're doing. If you like
Right.
speed or comfort, not to quote Wedding Crashers, but it's the truth. And we're just like Jim's boat actually right there, the Midnight Rambler was big inspiration around this because we were right at the cusp of figuring out. It's my old man's boat.
Right.
My brother and I, we run it, we take care of it, and we went out in November to the canyon with Jim. This is going back like 2014, something like that. No, even before that, 2012. And we went out in November and we're just dry, comfortable.
You can't beat it.
Yeah, and if you hit something, you're going slow enough where it's probably not going to do any crazy damage. And between work, our schedules, anybody who has a business, like you want to be able to go when you can go.
Right.
You don't mind tolerating a little shitty weather.
Yep.
Go slower, and again, you're not at risk for hitting something.
And know you're gonna get home.
Yeah, you're gonna get home, and you
Every
can
time.
run at night. You can't go 15 knots at a boat that wants to go 30.
Right.
You're gonna suck fuel, and so it's all a preference for what you like doing. I'm cool taking more time and
Yeah.
doing that, but I mean, we love the clamming and ground fishing and stuff that you do on little boats. That's like, yeah.
And that's kind of the bread and butter of like Narragansett Bay, Rhode Island, like Point Jude. Like as long as you hug the coast, you're good with a center console.
Yep.
But as soon as you want to go offshore, something like this is like where you want to be. Unless my buddy Jake, who has the
30 or the 42 yellowfin.
he had a yellowfin. It's a 39 Invincible.
Yeah, beautiful,
Yeah, freaking unbelievable.
badass. I mean, that's a battle. That's a battleship of a different make. But
Yeah, he cruises at 50 knots out to the canyons.
again, yeah, if you have the time and flexibility to take that good weather and
Yeah.
or good-ish weather, and you're able to blast out, there's nothing. I mean,
Nothing wrong with that.
new.
Yeah.
God, it's just you can only do so much. If you try tied down with work, like my brother has kids, so we try to align our schedules. So it's like you got to go when you can go.
Right.
And, it works out. It works out. Get out a little bit here and there.
For sure. Now you guys are both, Mike and Matt, from Point Judith, like Rhode Island.
We actually
Rhode Island, northern
Rhode
part.
Island, northern, because Deep is based out of Cumberland, technically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Just north of Providence.
Okay.
I grew up in North Smithfield. He grew up in Cumberland.
Okay.
And then I moved to Cumberland. That's kind of how we met.
I gotcha.
Yeah, we linked up through another guy in the industry that was kind of just a pro staffer for a lot of mutual companies, and
Okay.
he was a charter guy in Rhode Island, and he introduced us. Basically, Mike was looking for someone to help out with sales channels, and possibly someone to come in on the business, help out. And at that point in time, I was doing walk-ins for like walk-in appointments for Gibbs Lures. That's what I did. So I walked
Right.
into fucking tackle shops and met crotchety old owners and
The
got
salt
told-
of
got-
the earth.
yeah, I got used to being told no all
Yeah.
the time.
Yep.
And that was the experience we needed to to kind of, because at the time, you know, the website, it was just starting to get going. Like direct to consumer purchases were was
Right.
just Amazon was literally the biggest thing going. How do you compete with that? And then we had to focus on walking into stores and how do you, you know, the trick is how do you convince them to dedicate floor space to a new brand to hopefully
Right.
get them to accomplish the same thing with your brand that they had with another. It's
It's
a
a
tricky
hard,
thing
it's a give
from-
and take.
it's a hard sell, and you know, we got better at it, but at the end of the day, you know, and probably a big part of what Mike's gig is making sure the website's fluid, developing it. I mean, it's changed 3 times over in the past 3 years, so
Yeah, it's crazy. Like website development. I mean, I've gone through like 5 iterations of my site alone and doing other people's sites. It's just a constant thing. But let's kind of like take a step back a little bit, and you know, you guys meet, but before that, there's a whole nother story behind Mike and Matt, right? So,
Yep.
like, Mike, where did you get? Because obviously, Matt, you grew up down here, fishing. Your dad owns Gibbs Lures, correct? And
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's
yeah. So
kinda
he's-
how ya
he's
got
a
into it.
manufacturer, but that's how I got into it. Yeah,
Right.
Gibbs is something that we were involved with as a group, and yeah, and that's how I kind of started with that.
Right. So growing up, Point Judith, clamming, fishing, the whole bit. I
Yep.
mean, I grew up down in Matuna Kier off of Park Ave.
Yep.
That's my grandmother's place.
Yep.
So,
Nice.
you know, coming down in the whaler, going around the salt ponds, going past Perry's place. I know you spent a lot of time in Matuna Oyster
Yeah,
Bar.
I sure did. I think we all logged our fair
Too
share
much.
there. Right on the elbow in the bar.
Yeah. So then, Mike, how did you get involved in the whole outdoor space?
Always grew up outside hunting, fishing. Was down here surfing as a kid, so was
Yep.
always in the ocean. And then when I had a landscape construction company before Deep,
Okay.
and bought my first saltwater boat, small little center console.
Yep.
My brother was spending a lot of time with friends on the water at the same time, and kind of started as a joke, but you know, because we were living the lifestyle, and we're like, you know, if I could, I really hated the construction stuff, like
Yeah.
hated it.
Yep.
And I was like, if I could have a company based around something I love and something I have a passion for, you know, it wouldn't feel like work.
Yeah.
I was partially wrong on that too, but
What made you start the construction company?
that's a great question. I don't have a great answer for. I went to college for marketing, had a business degree, and just realized I could make more money with work boots on.
Right.
I'd always been doing blue collar work, just couldn't really see myself doing the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't worked for anybody else other than myself since I've been 21.
Wow, that's impressive. That's really cool.
Yep.
And then you slowly started to transition out, knowing that being on the water is where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it took a while before I could leave the construction company and before Deep could actually, you know, sustain you
Right.
know, our salaries. So that's kind of like where Matt came in, and we had infrastructure that, you know, we moved into an actual office with an actual warehouse with shipping docks. You know,
Sure.
I think some people still think I'm shipping off my pool table in my basement, which
That doesn't go away.
yeah, no.
Does it ever go away? I
No.
mean, because, you know, so a friend of mine, John, who owns a coffee company up the street, and basically when I was going to URI, I would wander up to the top of campus because he lived at the top of campus, and we literally pick and pack and roast beans in his kitchen.
Wow.
You know? And it was those moments that you remembered, you're like, oh man, this is like, it sucks, but at the same time, you look back at it, you're like, yeah, this is so much fun.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
'cause-
real. And it's cool to say that that's how you started with nothing. It
Yep.
was just an idea. And literally, I have pictures of my son, who's 10 now, as an infant sitting on my pool table while my brother and I are folding shirts and shipping stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So now, when you kind of go through those moments and you're picking those apart, and as you kind of see it pieced together, you know, Deep is a very interesting brand. You know, I see there's a lot of like
Thank you.
the blue collar. Yeah, you're welcome. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah. Well, shit. Yep.
You know, we're on Tough Guy, so there's that fishing element to it, but then there's a whole like outdoor hunting, woods, that side of things that I feel like you guys are kind of branching into.
Yep.
But to some degree, I still feel like the whole boat to bar is also that almost like a blue collar type mentality. You know, it's like work hard, play hard, right?
Yeah.
Boat
Absolutely.
to bar. Like, you know, you're going to go on the boat, have a long day, and then at the end of the day, we're all going to get together and go to the mob and have some oysters.
Yeah,
mean-
and it also translates into the type of clothing that we make, where, you know, like, you know, these are boat to bar hybrids. So,
Yep.
you know, they're meant to go on a boat, meant to go swimming.
Sure.
But, you know, then you can go out to eat with them, throw a polo on, and you look just as good.
Right.
And they have the same function.
So let me ask you this. So, like, why apparel? right? I mean, like Matt, like you're from the lure industry.
Yeah,
You're from the construction industry.
I think
It's
I mean, that's a good question, but I think we looked at the market.
We all make mistakes.
Well, Mike had a when he and his brother started things off and got the company going. There was already brand recognition. I knew what it was. Sick opportunity to be involved with. And I remember there was exactly a point where I was like, sure, Gibbs is great to a degree. It's work, but to be in an industry that I knew wasn't going to feel like work. Again, it always comes around to eventually feeling like work, and there's always responsibilities and shit that happens, but I'm cool with it being a lifestyle choice as opposed to forcing and grinding it out each day. What am I doing here? Why am I doing it? I think we can both say with total confidence that although it's been a crazy curve, always is every day, we both, I think, revel in the troubleshooting that happens every day, and I think we'd be fucking bored without it. And that's how you start a business, and you get that gratification when you see things, the needle move.
Yeah.
In here, and you're gambling on yourself every day. Sometimes you're taken back, off the table on certain things, and you're moving it around. And I think that's part of the game that, we like. You talk about working for yourself. Like, there's so many things that we knew that we're no strangers to hard work or grinding it out or going back there and doing the dirty work routinely, even sometimes still. But we wanted to be able to be in a space where we had flexibility to go. And
go
do
fishing.
Go fish, go clam, or take the day. Just whether it's New Hampshire, whether it's lake life, whatever. It's
breaking your clavicle.
Clavicle mountain biking. I wasn't going to touch on that, but
thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's part of. But that's a big part, and I think between COVID happening, it's still become more relevant. Like you got the 10 feet in front of you,
right,
to jump on it and get it done and have fun. And if you don't take advantage of it, it's like you're 65 and maybe you had a different profession and you're retired, but you spent all that time not doing a couple of these meaningful things that really just, whether it's clamming with the kids, dude, Dog Beach.
Right.
This past 2 weeks we got my brother's 2 kids. There's 3 and 5 and both our wives out there for their first giant tuna. Epic experience. And it's like, do we have that flex? Can you do that if you don't have that ability to go and when it's appropriate and capitalize on it?
Content days.
Content days. Great.
It's work.
Yeah. It's a write-off. Just keep writing them off. Yeah. It's free, right? The government pays for it.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's right. That's what everybody's mindset is these days.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of mentioned this whole, taking a gamble on yourself, and Mike explained like, hey, I was on my pool table, pick, packing, and shipping. Stepping back even further, like those beginning days of walking into and being a sales guy and like going into a shop and being like, nope, not interested.
Yep.
Nope, not interested. Even going down to like, how you're coming up with the designs and seeing where the brand, where you want to take it. Where did you guys start? Like, what was step one for you?
Well, step one was logo and bringing concept to market. So we got very fortunate where the designer that helped us with Deep had worked with a lot of different brands in the sport industry, sporting goods, and just outdoor industry in general. So once we created the logo that we liked and we kind of agreed the direction that the company was going to go, we were able to get really good advice. Talk to this screen printer. These are, don't go too crazy with the colors. Keep, we got a lot of good advice early, and then from there on, it was just testing stuff. Reaching out to people now that are great friends that we just had great fishing Instagram handles or Facebook handles that were like, would you wear a T-shirt if we gave you one? It was very, very grassroots when we started. And then, just starting to knock on doors, a lot of no's. And then, you get a $500 order of hats or something, which looking back on was more of a pain in the ass than it was worth. But, it's little wins like that added up over the years.
Yeah, yeah. And then I like how you kind of mentioned taking that gamble every single day, because essentially that's what you're doing. Yeah. It's little by little, small strikes on the stone that will eventually kind of build this thing called Deep. Now, was it kind of this idea of keeping it Northeast based? Because it's interesting. You see a lot of brands, and there's nothing here in the Northeast. There's only really one other brand I can think of, and that's Jetty, right? And that's down in New Jersey. So that's like on the edge of, is it the Northeast, is it not? Yep. But having something that's purely Rhode Island, purely here on the coastline, it's such a unique place to be.
Yeah.
I think, we talk on all the time the different activities that comprise the Northeast. Like, I mean, on the short list here, he mountain bikes, fishes, hunts. I fish. We both board. Chances are, because of the way the seasonality works, like, what are you going to do? Not do something for 6 months out of the year? You're going to probably go do something. And one of the things we, touched on was, well, what if the most unique thing I think we have, and I noticed it before, kind of when we were just starting to get involved, was the versatility of what deep could mean, could apply to.
Sure.
We made the conscious decision to, originally the name on even our Instagram was Deep Ocean Apparel, but we realized that this was 4 or 5 years ago. We dropped Ocean Apparel, and it organically started filtering in the outdoor images, the outdoor lifestyle, because boat to bar translates to God. I mean, we use lake as an example of our biggest growth market because, one, that's a big group of people that doesn't have a brand that speaks to them, because most of those brands are saltwater, strictly surf-related, fish, salt life, pelagic, American fishing tackle stuff. Like, it's we realized there was a big void in the market space for tackling this group of people that are way more passionate than even saltwater fishermen, and they just like to drink and go out in their fucking pontoon boats and hang out. And we realized, we could really occupy that, and it's been a really ravenous group of people that we found like traction with people in Wisconsin, Ozark area, Texas.
Minnesota's huge.
Minnesota's
Really?
huge.
Yeah, one of our biggest states.
No shit. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they buy a lot of the tuna stuff too. You'd think it'd be all like harpoons and tune shirts.
Right.
They buy just as much tuna stuff as the Northeast.
Interesting.
I think it just needed that whole area just needed like something that spoke to them a little bit, that said, it's a cool factor, huge thing. A lot of people screw up slapping it on T-shirts. We take it for granted because we haven't he has a great eye for keeping things simple and concise, but we also are lucky in the sense that we both know what looks good and what says deep.
Yep.
So, very, very rarely is there like, I don't like that and I like this, but it just doesn't happen often because we both know that, simple is better. The logo speaks for itself, and people want to interpret it how they want to interpret it, and who's to say that it can't apply there? So
I think kind of leaving it up to interpretation kind of almost extends and creates your brand overall.
right? Yeah, and you get that overlap where, why is a tuna roster shirt under some guy's base layer for, boarding? Or why is a sun shirt good for the same exact thing? It's all got those same features. And when we just started, for the people that played sports and grew up playing sports, there was really only a couple performance brands that you would wear underneath equipment, even like, hockey, lacrosse. We both played hockey, but one of the things I noticed was when I was really, playing lacrosse after college, it was like, there's only Under Armour or New Balance Under Armour ripoff. And
Pretty
it's
much.
like, it's just a sun shirt. It's polyester. What if you started taking some of those concepts and just making a little bit more, if it's comfortable for sports, sweating, salt water,
Got to be comfortable.
it's got to be comfortable
else.
for everything else. And that's really where we stay in our lane. We realize that no one's going to replace the bibs, the orange bibs in the Northeast. No one's going to replace your Sitka jacket for, hunting in the mountains. Like, we focus on stuff. You brought up blue collar, like affordable stuff that typically sticks around $150 and below, from $150 and below. And we do the stuff ourselves, so we know, like, shit, that's going to hold up. No, man, that zipper already pulled on us, so it's not going to work. So that's where I think maybe, we have a very good hands-on, is just every single product filters through us. And again, it's voiced through the social, which is funny. I was talking to another person who started a company recently or is involved with a company, and one of the things they don't handle is their own social. And they don't handle their own customer service. And it's one thing that we, were nudged to do from people a lot smarter than us, was make sure it ships clean, make sure they know they're appreciated. And if it's going to be late, which happens, it does, it'll happen anywhere.
Sure.
Take accountability for it and reach out to them, because, those are the types of things that if you let a crew build up, it's going to be all bad news. So
Right. Now, it's interesting because, if we keep kind of touching on the whole Northeast as a whole, right? And you guys do reach other places.
Absolutely.
But it seems as though that Deep has its home here, right? Especially here in Point Judith.
Yeah.
I mean, you go anywhere, and, I go to Elite Shooting Range, right?
Yeah, James, yeah.
James,
right
over there. Yeah. You guys have a home here, right? And although you do reach other places, what do you think it is that makes the Northeast so special that you can go mountain biking and go hiking and hunting, and it's that seasonality that kind of almost breeds more creativity from people here in the Northeast than I think you would almost get. And I feel like maybe that's not the right way to describe it, because
I think you nail it though.
You know what I mean?
It's seasons. We have seasons that some other states don't. So where some other states might fish 12 months out of the year, and we don't have that luxury. So we're forced to do mountain sports. We're forced to do other recreational activities. And that's what we realized early on, where we're like, well, let's try, like, maybe not a hardcore hunt shirt, but let's try something with a mountain on it, or let's try something with some ducks on it. And I was like, oh, big surprise! All these fishermen also like that.
Hunting in the
as
winter,
do
yeah.
people who don't fish or hunt. They like the ducks on the shirt, or they like the mountain on the shirt.
Right.
And and then I got really big into mountain biking because I was like, I'm going to throw a tire on the back of a shirt, and it sold awesome. And it's funny how we've kind of just, because we're not big corporate, we're allowed to kind of do whatever we want and just have fun.
Right.
And a lot of people are doing the same stuff we're doing.
Yeah. Now, do you think that, kind of dipping your toes into those different buckets, like, what's the mindset behind trying to go in that route without straying away too far from, deep per se? You know what I mean? Like, you probably wouldn't want to dive into, like, like you said, Matt, you don't want to make the next Sitka jacket, but if we can make a jacket that kind of fits in between, then let's do it. So what's your I guess baseline?
Yeah, it's a good question, because we do have those conversations of how do we do this stuff without alienating our core base, which initially was hardcore offshore fishermen. And we've been pleasantly surprised that we've been able, just by what we do and what we show, that we haven't alienated that, and people still take us as a legit authority in that market. But by dipping the toes in and maybe not making a jacket, but making a new T-shirt or series of designs on, T-shirts, hoodies, performance shirts, it allows us to test it. And with the new huge push to the direct-to-consumer market, we can try this stuff out at little to no risk for us.
Right.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, dictates, a big part of his gig is the, sourcing materials, what's available, right? What's it cost is the next big question, and you does it fall in line with all those things added up? Does it fall in line with, the direction of what you're doing? And that usually dictates the next thing that's coming out. And we found that, even when we were walking into stores, the fact that people wanted to order stuff, Dick's Sporting Goods, we had, several tests with them, and they want our assortment 6 months ahead of time, which is typical buying, but you see it shifting now because, one, who wants to be stuck with stuff 6 months dated, hoping they get it, because we quickly realized that's not built for us. We're meant for being flexible, new designs every week, and controlling the messaging. And I think that's just, a big part of it is having that in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned messaging, right? And like this whole idea of, cultivating this brand that reaches so many different people. And I think that's what's really important, what we haven't really touched on, is your guys' I guess impact on the community, right? I mean, you have a huge impact here in Rhode Island. You actually, it was funny. I was running the boat. I think I was going to East Greenwich, and there was a balloon floating in the water. And you sure as shit, I turned around for that balloon, and because if it was like right over here, I would have grabbed it. But if you're running, you're running, right?
You can't get them all. You can't get them all, but there are people that certainly try to.
Right, and so I turn around, I grab that balloon, and
That's
I took a video. I haven't posted it yet. I'll throw it up there.
Well,
I was waiting. Yeah. So talk to me about like all this conservation aspect, because you guys are both fishermen.
Yep.
And there's this whole there's an interesting dynamic, right? Because nowadays people see the big tuna shots or guys gaffing fish, and it's this whole it's a very negative, bad
It's
rap,
egotistical,
right?
and we see it all the time, and that's why we've tastefully steered away from kill anything, more so because you can depict you were out fishing all day in a shot with a touch of creativity.
Right.
You don't need to show the dead body on the floor. You can say there's just you got to be conscious about the story you're telling in the picture. Right. And we found, and again with some guidance from other people, that you have to tastefully articulate that you fished hardcore all day, but with a different type of shot. And I think that's what we really, again, one of the things that I think we do a little bit more unique by controlling the content, having the content filtered through us strictly, we're able to show, hey, this is us right here.
Right.
And you didn't have to show a dead animal. And listen, we harvest, that's a big part of what we do, and a big part of our messaging is harvesting sustainably,
Right.
and we think rod and reel fishing is absolutely falls into that category. There's so many boats on this dock that, half of them make a living ground fishing every day, and
Yeah.
we take that for granted. That where does that fresh plated sea bass or flounder or fluke show up from? And it's honestly, a good percentage of it is guys like this. It's not all draggers, it's not all gill nets, but
Right.
we respect that people have to make a living doing it. We fall into that category a little bit, but you got to walk the line with what it is you're showing. And again, it's the touch of creativity you got to be able to put on it to tell a story in a picture.
Right. And what do you mean by that touch of creativity? Because I mean, a lot of people take that differently, right? Like my work with Waypoint, and what we do is, our goal is to educate and equip and inspire the future outdoorsmen. So like, it's all positively kind of creating this community around, the guys like Local Knowledge and, On the Water, the guys are making those types of shows. And there are shows out there that we just won't even deal with, right? Because they don't fit the ethos. But you guys have kind of narrowed in and said, we're going to work with guys like Kenny Chesney. We're going to come up with the balloon challenge. Like, come up with these different ways to interact, like you said, creativity, to be able to perpetuate that positive, mindset that Deep kind of perpetuates.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where about a year and a half ago, we really made a conscious decision to go as sustainable as we could and kind of explain our message of sustainability, both from starting to make recycled shirts, partnering with Kenny Chesney and No Shoes Reefs.
How is that? Have you met Kenny yet?
I've seen him at a show, but briefly. We deal with his partner Brett, who does a great job managing that relationship. But it's been great, and I mean we've raised a ton of money, which gets donated to Reef Ball Foundation, and they build artificial reefs. They've got projects all around the world. We're actually working on one right here for the Ocean Mist locally in Rhode Island.
Yep. What's that going to look like?
I think it's going to be a couple different tests, but you'll have to stay tuned and see how that works out. But
Top secret?
Yeah, it's in the works right now.
Okay.
But that would be really cool. And
yeah.
So, it's kind of like a triple threat. We're creating awareness. We're creating clothing that was taking bottles out of the environment.
Right.
Recycling it, making the clothing, and then donating back to an organization that, helps, build these artificial reefs. So it's really cool. The whole thing is very transparent. We donate quarterly, so you can see the money actually physically going to the foundation, and then you can see the foundation allocating that money to which projects they're going to do next.
Right. You're getting this full supply chain, the soup to nuts. Like,
Yeah.
this is what's happening. It's not just going into some big pail and everyone's dumping money into
Exactly.
it. You can really see where it's going.
And that's kind of how it started, and then just quickly with little things like, okay, at the time it was industry standard to wrap every single T-shirt, hat, whatever in a plastic bag. We're like, this doesn't really make sense.
No.
We're making recycled shirts. Why are we doing this? So we're like, we're not bagging shirts anymore, and we're going to even tell wholesalers, like, unless you have a major issue with this, we're not sending you stuff wrapped in plastic.
Did any customers come back and say that we don't want?
No, there was
shirts
like
wrapped in
maybe
plastic?
like one customer around the holidays that were like, I think you guys just sent me some used clothing. It wasn't wrapped at all. That was like one person out of thousands, so it wasn't a big deal. But within a very short amount of time, we tallied it up because it wasn't even all of last year that we launched it. It was only partial, and it was like over 40,000 bags that we didn't put into the environment because of this, this movement we started. And that's where, when you say the touch of creativity, it doesn't have to be just the image that we're showing. Like Matt does a lot of our social, and he's very good at the language, because we don't ever want to talk at people like a lot of other organizations do, where, if you don't do what we do, you're bad.
Right.
This is more of like, there's a way to do this. You don't
inspire people.
You don't have to hug trees all the time to care about the environment. There is a sustainable part. We're not vegetarians. If you're vegetarians, great for you. We support that too. But we do eat meat and fish, and there's a way to do it, responsibly.
100%.
Yeah. I think it was crazy. It tied in. Like, last year was a crazy year for everybody, and it sucked. I don't want to say you get pigeonholed if you vote one way or another, but we talked about being, someone picking up trash isn't politicized. Like, pick up your fucking trash, and
don't be a slob.
That's how that's a big part of our foundation is we were raised to like, all right, you're gonna be an active outdoors person. Just you pick up garbage where you can, and you don't litter deliberately.
Be a steward.
Yeah, and it's like you try not to focus on a lot of those words because again, like you don't want to feel like you got to fly a green flag to do anything that's super casual. And you brought up the blue collar guy, right? There's a huge group of people that are assumed to be throwing their stuff overboard because they're either blue-collared or chose a political view one way or the other. And it's like, listen, everybody should be able to kind of be in agreement on this. Like,
Yeah.
and
Why wouldn't we?
And the fact that, there wasn't really a brand that brought out the casual environmentalism, that was a big thing. It's like, how do you make this like a casual effort? It's by not throwing it in their face. It's not by, you shouldn't be doing this. You got to be able to realize that, our customer base is guys that work hard, and to kind of slowly, organically let them know that, it's okay to have a recycling 5-gallon drum too, a
Right.
5-gallon bucket on your boat, as opposed to just everything going in. And again, you can't win them all.
Right.
You can't pick up every Mylar balloon out there. So even just, putting on a shirt that's 5 bottles in the t-shirt, and then,
Did your part.
You did your part, and you
Yeah.
did something. It's a step. Like, what are we going to do? Not take the small step we can. So we found like that the traction with just the shirts, it's been super well received. And then, the balloon challenge was just something like, from us spending time out there, and it's like, dude, this is ridiculous.
What is it about?
I don't know what it
balloons
is.
in
And
the ocean?
I just don't understand. Like, when you have a balloon, don't you fucking pop it before you put it in the trash? So you just save space. At the very
Yeah.
least, you save space.
Right.
And then you go out there and you literally see over, say, 20 miles. You're going out to the
insane.
gully tuna fishing. You go 20 miles and you see a steady stream, like a chum slick of like
Yeah.
one. Could it be? Again, I don't know the science around it, but one of the guys here, he's a commercial
Wedding
dragger
season.
captain. Yeah, graduation, birthdays, I don't know what it is, but one of the guys, Norbert Stamps, he ran some offshore lobster boats in the Port of Galilee, and
Okay.
he's an environmental rep for, commercial fisheries for Virginia, New Jersey, and then up to here in the Northeast. And
Yep.
he started the balloon ban here with Susan Donovan, was their rep out of Bristol or Barrington, and there's stuff in the works. It just hasn't gotten any like recognition as a problem. And he coined it best when he said, "This is the biggest littering problem we have as a fishery."
It's
And
insane.
when we threw it out there, we were like, "All right, what if we throw some swag, like incentivize these people to, get a balloon and gaff it and bring it in?" And we never realized the traction that this would accrue
Yeah,
because it's
going
fucking
viral.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time I go on your Instagram, there's always just a new,
Yeah.
repost. There's always something.
It's
And
tough to keep up to.
I believe it, and it's cool to watch because you're seeing guys offshore who are their sole goal is to catch a tuna, but meanwhile they're also picking up trash and they're doing something good for the environment.
I think that gives that industry a positive reflection that they normally wouldn't get, because they'd assume to be you're just a fish killer and you're probably not
Right.
doing anything positive. When conversely, these are the types of people, guides, they are the ones, the best, stewards for this stuff. They
Yep.
lead the way, but they don't get the recognition for it because at the end of the day, they killed something to make the dough
Right.
and to pay their or have their charter pay them. It's that's part of the process, but we need to shed a positive light on it. And we never thought that we'd see, guys going out to George's Bank for lobster and picking up balloons, but at the same time a bow rider going out clamming or going out fishing for the day, doing something Dog Beach, and they're posting
Right.
something too. So I think that's what we're doing in a nutshell, is just bow rider guy, hardcore everyday guy. They're all submitting the same stuff, and we think that we're the brand that kind of brings that together, because again, we're taking a different approach. It's more organic, not in your face. Do a good thing if you can. Try to do it, and we'll show you the results at the end of the day, because the donation, or excuse me, the amount of retrievals don't lie. The amount of money we give back on the shirts, the amount of bottles and plastic bags that we save it's all tangible. It's all numbers you can show, and we wanted to focus on that, especially this year, being transparent.
Right.
These are our three main causes. We talked on donating old garments, old clothes to the homeless. We talked about some of the military organizations where, beyond the battle, taking out guys
Yep.
that, have served time, and first responders that have, had serious PTSD, that this is why we're doing it. If we could leave a good positive mark in the environmental side, obviously, that should go without saying. And then to be able to have these two other causes that kind of anchor our brand is, we're happy with that.
Yeah, it makes you guys, make it. When I think of Mike and Matt, I think of two solid dudes, trying to do some good in the world.
Well, thanks,
and,
man.
Kind of do it.
I told you he liked you.
And just going about your way. And you mentioned these, guides and fishermen, and just your average Joe spanning these two planes, if you will, right, and coming
Exactly,
together. But for people to think that fishermen aren't stewards or conservationists, it blows my mind. I still have not been able to figure out why someone who looks at some guy fishing with a rod and reel, doesn't think that's sustainable whatsoever, because that's been going on for centuries,
Millennia,
a millennium. So it's interesting to see that, and to be able to kind of touch in that creativity, as you will, sprinkle that in, I think is, top notch. So what's been kind of like, you guys have this brand, you're well established, you have a really good name for yourselves. Like, there's always these moments where you're like, man, this is getting tough, right? Like, we're on my pool table shipping out shirts, and like, man, I got to catch this tuna unless we can, pay for these this next inventory round. Like, what's been kind of some of the learning curves, I guess, in creating this business and in connecting that fisherman with that bow rider?
Well, I mean, I think that Mike does a good job, given the grassroots backstory. But the truth is, we have such a close perspective of the business every day that there'll be 2 or 3 times a year. One's usually after Christmas, one's going into spring, before like the peak sales start, where we really get to take a step back and be like, we might have set the table for ourselves to be in a good position from a business standpoint. And we've also had events where we're like, oh shit. How are we going to get this done? How do we get that done? All these normal day-to-day life things you need to be able to support yourself.
Right.
We have those, but, I think the nature of someone owning a business is to focus on the troubleshooting, the bad stuff every day. So we've gotten good at, first of all, chilling out when knowing what to worry about and knowing what not to worry about.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's, that's really just focused in on our leftover data that we have up here. Is you got to appreciate the wins and when you have them. So we've done a good job at being like, listen, we got to this point, and and just maintaining that positivity, because there's no shortage of stuff that you could focus on that's negative. But at the end of the day, you're making money, you're selling a lot of shirts, and you're growing.
The freakouts are seasonal.
Yeah, they're very seasonal. Yeah, it's. But it takes we're very lucky in the sense, because I don't know if like each of us were by ourselves, like we'd be able to sustain the amount of juice you need to battle through this. And that's a big part, like being able to have that, if I can't handle it that day, Mike can, and vice versa. And as we've gotten more, involved, there's more formal policies with the company and this other stuff. You grow each day. But if you're not hands-on to do that stuff, if you're not there, if you don't show that, listen, we were there doing it. We were doing it packaging. We were doing slapping labels on boxes for a very long time. And I think that was probably the biggest milestone for us, was now we can focus on the 3 jobs that we need to do as opposed to the 8. Because we got that good manager down there working the shift, the day shift, making sure orders are going out, because it's so tough to focus on that. Oh God, we had a big day on the web. Oh, now I got to go make it all or do it all. It's like, man, it's tough. It's
better get printing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta get down there and get the stuff out the door. So that was a big one for me. I know it was for you to be able to have that quality of life. That this is why we did it, to be able to go out and interact with guys like you, and and then see your stuff all up and down the dock. I mean, it's a good feeling. It's cool.
Yeah.
So those are probably the 2 big things. The brand recognition you see around here. It's like, wow, that was something we did. And obviously a lot of people to thank for that, but it's, that's the win for me, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it seems as though, like, this business in particular, you have to be that hands-on, right? You have to be in it. Like, you can't just be someone that is, sitting in the office, be like, I want to create a fishing shirt, or I want to create something that is in the outdoors, because the outdoor industry is, largely a group of people that enjoy the outdoors, right? You just don't get into it to get into it, you know?
You have to be an authority on it. Like I said, that helped. And it allows us to go into these other markets besides just fishing. But yeah, we're hands-on, and because we're not, like I've used the term before, we're not a big corporate company.
Right.
We have the ability to sit down and come out with new stuff when we want to.
Yep.
We still do hit wholesale, but the direct-to-consumer market has really grown the business, and it's allowed us to sit down and have these powwows daily. Like, what do we want to do tomorrow? What do we want to do next week? How do we get the fall momentum going? How do we get ready for the holidays? And it's I think we're in a great place now. I mean, COVID definitely threw a wrench in everything, just from manufacturing,
Supply chain, the whole bit.
yeah, employees, the whole thing. I think we're in a great spot now where you're going to see a lot of cool stuff coming out of us in the next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like this, you guys having being on the podcast is actually the first partnership, business that's been on the show. So I'm curious.
Really?
Yeah, it's some people have had partners and them gone on by themselves, but
Interesting.
I'm interested. Like, how is that dynamic, right? Because you guys seem like you guys work pretty well together, right? In a way where you both are in the outdoors. You guys talk to each other in a sense. It's like, hey, you're going mountain biking, I'm going fishing. Like, how does that work? In
It's a give and take.
It's a give and take.
Yeah, absolutely.
We obviously, again, you get these type of guidance beforehand before you hit your wagons, and it's like, one thing I noticed immediately was, all right, Mike's a good infrastructure guy.
Mm-hmm.
Mike's good at, doing a bunch of things that I'm not great at. And then, on the flip side of the coin, it's, we probably wouldn't have gotten together if we didn't have that very visible, we knew that, all right, this guy balanced us out.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing, too, is like we didn't know each other before. We weren't friends. We didn't, hang out before. It was a blind date, more or less. And
what
then,
did that blind date look like?
Did you buy me lunch or did I buy you lunch?
Or it might have split. I don't know.
We went Dutch.
Oh, yeah, it was early on, so we probably fought for the tab right off the bat.
Yeah.
But
Want to impress this Gibbs guy.
Yeah. But no, and then dude, it's like an arranged marriage. Like it's like you work on it, and then eventually, I think the reason that we didn't know each other beforehand, we were able to kind of have this fresh, clean slate. There's no preconceived. This is what you're that type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
We had to feel it out. There's definitely a bunch of learning curves and bumps, but dude, disagreements happen, and we do a good job. I think that short-term memory, and it's like I feel this, I feel that, but we're very lucky in the sense that we are kind of share an atom or a brain cell, the one left, and we're lucky that it's on the same page. That we, at the end of the day, best interest of the company is in mind with every decision we make. Where's the growth? Let's focus there, and most of these decisions that I think partnerships get hung up on, we're lucky where we're like, that's it.
Right.
What do you think of this proof? What do you think of this strike off? Good, maybe tweak this. And I think if you can't have a discussion with your partner about life, business, salary, time, whatever, all of these discussions we've had, you got to have a short-term memory and just be like, all right, cool. When you talk, like, you have to learn to talk like, up front and be straight up with it, because, we've had guidance from, we've had investors as well, which, is it was a great thing to have, because we needed that kind of guy to be like, listen, you guys are both doing this wrong here, or hey, you guys are both doing this right.
Yep. Stop crushing streams.
Yep. You're able to
Just stay in your lane.
Yeah, you're able to get like, you do this, you do that, and that's what you bring a person on like that for, to give you that experience. Be like, this is where you're going to go wrong, and you're going to have a million problems this way, or you two need to get on the same page. But luckily, these talks are few and far between, because we've been
just
very
kind of
compatible.
works.
There's balance, like with everything. You got to have, that one or two things that only he can do, or it's for the best interest of the company to do, and then vice versa.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to say it. Is we have very, our skills complement each other very well, and luckily, when it comes to creative, we're almost 99% on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what makes that process, because we see the results every time we get together. We're like, hey, what about this concept? Or I text him at 11 o'clock at night, or he sends me a DM from, hey, what about this on this?
Yeah.
It doesn't shut off, but that's the cool part, because it's your baby.
Well, it's fun.
That's the fun part.
Yeah,
And
it is the fun part.
And we realize like just how much we get out of these tweaks. And if you're not doing it in the space, you don't have that, Docktails cocktails. I mean, boat to bar.
Right.
If we weren't both, swinging our fat legs over the sides of the boat to get off somewhere when you're half wet.
Speak for yourself, buddy.
Yeah. But if you don't have that feeling of wet sandy shorts, trying to swing a leg over a gunnel and splitting it open, you're like, you don't have that appreciation for, wow, we need a stretchy short, and this is going back like, years, and we need it to look good for grabbing a beer in or dinner, and we realized that wasn't field specific. Everybody wants to be able to wear their designated hardcore thing they have, but they don't want it to look too hardcore, because who wants to wear the Mahi print shirt that's, has 20 different colors on it with 5 different back prints. That's not us.
Nope, not me either.
Might work on the water, but you probably shouldn't wear it to lunch.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're not in there, experiencing it, doing it, that's totally where the inspiration comes from.
Yeah, and it seems as though it's, again, it's like the outdoor industry. You really have to be in it to be in it. Otherwise, you just don't understand. And me being a captain, like having done a variety of different jobs in the industry, I kind of have this whole 1,000-foot view where I'm able to talk with guys like you, because I can speak some of the language. I might not know everything, but I know what a Westmac is, and I know what Hydrosport is, and talking about engines, and it's just these little things that help in those little, I guess, links in the chain, right? That kind of put everything together overall. So it's like having the community aspect and the infrastructure, and to kind of have this whole collaborative effort that eventually leads to what deep will become, and what deep is. So, as you guys kind of keep moving forward and trying different things, and what does it look like, 5 years from now?
The sustainability thing, we want to keep growing.
In what ways?
I'd love to go fully sustainable as a clothing company. It's easier said than done, and COVID definitely put a kink in all manufacturing, domestic and foreign. So slowed us down a little bit there, but you're going to see that line from us continue. And then I think we just really need to, keep with the creative, keep coming out with new stuff within our boat to bar realm that really fits our core market and core customers that have been with us since day one, and then just keeping the messaging the same, from our voice and telling people how we see it, and hopefully they agree with us.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about wholesale and stuff before. We got started off of mom and pop shops, and that's something we always want to be available to. We always want to support those stores that have supported us. But when you get to a pinch point in your business where you got to do what's best for your company, all right, now how do we make this available, digitally available? One, you're not printing 10,000 catalogs a year. What's that do for, someone that could very easily just go click on a hyperlink and, it's easier to update. So, making things more efficient, making things more us. And I think, again, this is the first year and a half where, maybe even less than that, where we've had our ability to do our space. And that means, for us, it's one of the new things I was able to do was work on, chase the Deep Balloon Challenge and chase, ambassadors that are us, and how do you get the most out of them, and Mike's corporate relationships and new fabrics to explore, new sourcing, all these things that kind of clipped your wings to start because you got to ship it and take care of the people that already bought something.
Right.
Now we finally are in that space where like, oh, okay, we're trying out some new stuff, but this is what I've meant to do. This is what, this is my space.
Kind of finding your roles in a way.
And you can never get too far away from it because you'll get called back. We have the holidays coming up too, and that's always a pleasant surprise. But again, you're like, you see all that traffic, and you're like, great. But when you're the guy down there pack muling it all, you get a different. Now I got to do that.
Yeah.
Again, when you see it, materialize into a lot of people you don't know, Chicago O'Hare Airport, I'm getting screenshots of a guy sitting at a bar, another dude in Connecticut. It's like, 3 years ago, it's like, do you know that guy? Do you know that guy? It's like,
yeah, that's. We still get that.
It's like
I saw a guy on the highway in a yellow Jeep with a Deep sticker. Do you know who that is? Like we've got about 100,000 stickers out there. Probably not.
So it's funny, you get that loyal group of friends and people that have been with you since the jump, and they might be more stoked than we are to see the national recognition that it's gotten. And, there's no shortage of issues you could find to worry about. We just try to, again, after being in the trenches doing it and getting it off the ground and thinking you got it done, and then you get your legs kicked out from under you, and then you go back and do it. Two things. One thing I could say is he might be more stubborn than me, but we're both, I don't really take no for an answer, or don't really
just
accept.
A maybe.
You don't accept this isn't happening. It's going to happen, and that's probably where a lot of people go wrong in apparel. And not wrong, it's a tough ask. It's a tough workload, and we'd be lying if we said it didn't lead to migraines and minor health issues and all this other high blood pressure.
Yep.
But
having a heart restarted,
Yeah,
oh, Jesus.
this guy AFib. So it's crazy, but you you get the perspective of what you're doing it for, and you appreciate the wins when you get them.
Right. Well, it seems as though, a lot of things came out of COVID that were obviously not that great. But one of the things that did come out that was pretty phenomenal was the explosion in the outdoor industry.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
all different sides. Whether you're, selling boats, you're making apparel, you're whatever you're doing, right? COVID just seems to have just amplified that in a very positive light because everyone's trying to get outside. So what kind of things, like, you mentioned that jump, and this is almost like seems like a kickstart. It had to have been, to continue that growth and that trajectory.
Yeah, the analysts are saying that last year was year one of a 10-year outdoor growth cycle.
Really?
So the people that, were maybe already hardcore guys, they're more hardcore now. The guys that were like 1 foot in to the outdoors, maybe they camped, maybe they had a fishing rod. They were both feet, both feet in now. And then the people that were sitting on the couch that typically worked 9 to 5, maybe, caught a football game on Sunday and drank some beers, they were working from home now, and they were like,
I need a kayak. I need a surfboard.
Yeah, I got to get outside. So
Yeah.
it's been really cool to see. It's really helped the growth. And for us, just because of everything stopped, including our wholesale, I think that's what, it was a blessing and a curse. I mean, we lost a ton of money on wholesale because the country just stopped. But it also allowed us that minute to pursue, the No Shoes Reef relationship and, the eco clothing, which – if COVID hadn't happened and we were still in our, that wholesale cycle,
Right.
We might have not had the time to really pursue it.
Yeah, interesting. So as we kind of wind down here, I got one last question. Bananas, are they really bad luck?
Oh boy, I think we know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Well,
Are they?
Listen, I'm just adhering to a superstition that goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years here, and I remember. One time how this all came about is I was actually down with Seth Funt. I don't know if you know him. He's partially a Rhode Island guy, but he's a Florida.
I don't know, Seth.
Florida boat captain. Either way, I had gone out fishing with him. There was a banana on the boat. He went bullshit, and we were striking out deep dropping for swordfish. So I'm like, well, that was a drastic reaction. I was like, oh man, well, whatever. They're a nice boat food because they don't get soaking wet.
Fit in your lunchbox.
Very ideal.
Yeah.
So I could see why people want to grab it, but. Yeah, I'm assuming you're referring to some type of video that may have featured one of us. We were out for a bachelor party, right? And it was my brother's best friend. My brother's the best man. He wanted to go canyon fishing. He didn't want to do a wild bachelor party.
Yep.
So, yeah, we just had a bunch of beers on the boat and went to the canyon, and we were striking out. We had just had sawed off by a wahoo. The water looked great. We're like, why aren't we catching right now? And then some guy comes out. So my buddy Tim. Comes out gnawing on a banana, and I was like, that's fucking it. That's the reason. I was like, get that thing out of your mouth and throw them all overboard. And
I think you reached in and took it out of his mouth.
I got in there, and but we had to get all of it out. And it was so funny because we had a kid actually there doing some content filming, and he's shooting the whole thing live, and that's how I was like, is that real? I was like, that was dead ass serious. So yeah, we caught a lot after that. Nice big eye wahoo, and some more yellowfin. So I'd say, hey, listen, play it safe than sorry.
All right. Hey, good to know. The last time I was out fishing, I was fishing with big game.
Yeah.
We're out on the we're out pretty close to the canyons, and I brought a banana on.
No.
It was my first time out with them, and
You swim home?
I got pretty
How'd
close.
they handle
to
it? How'd they handle it?
They handled it okay.
Professional?
Seamus, in his big
Oh,
freaking
my
baseball
God, those
hands.
Yeah.
He tossed it overboard, but
Oh God, man, yeah, that man angry at you is a different level. You don't want that.
But when I'm on my boat, I'll bring a banana.
Okay,
I'm
well,
usually
listen.
not fishing though, so.
I'm sure if you play the numbers enough, you can prove that it doesn't play a role. But superstition's a big part of going out fishing. So
Yep.
Fair enough.
we'll err on the side of not having them.
Yeah.
No banana boats, sunscreen.
No banana boat, nothing.
I think we did a thorough
Yellow.
check actually this weekend when we had a little dry spell. We were like, all right, just making sure.
Do you guys sell yellow shirts?
Light greens is about all we touch on.
Close to banana as we get.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right, fair enough.
We sell no banana shirts, and you still can't bring those on the boat.
yeah, that's actually a good. That's a good twist on that. We should explore that.
Yeah.
Is that technically having a banana on the boat?
We gotta have a towel, like a mat. No
Yeah,
bananas.
let's. There's people out there who have. It's funny because, dude, that video brought out perfect case. We would not have had that shirt had we not had that absolute episode caught on film. And we're like, why don't we come out with our decals, full line, hoodie, long sleeve, all this other stuff? But
Dedicated to bananas.
a great
Yeah.
example of, hey, had we not taken a flyer on that bachelor party, we probably wouldn't have had that shirt inspired. So
Hey, there we go. Well, what a great way to end it off, guys. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for having me on the boat.
thank you. I'm glad
Hey.
we finally were able
Yeah.
to link up and get outside and the rain held off or whatever is about to
Rain,
brew above
fog,
us.
classic Point Judith.
Yep.
Now you're the man. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Later.